It is 1998, a Saturday afternoon in a suburban shopping plaza, and the biggest sign in the parking lot is shaped like a giant red plug. Inside, under bright white light, a man is buying the first real television of his life. He has no idea what he is doing, and he does not need to. Beside him stands a salesman in a red shirt, trained by the manufacturers themselves, who knows every set on the wall, every cable behind it, every trade-off between the television you want and the one you can actually afford. He spends 20 minutes on one customer and one purchase, and he is not chasing a commission. He simply knows. The man walks out carrying a box, and something worth more than the box, the quiet certainty that he bought the right thing. Remember that salesman in the red shirt? Because in a few years, on a single morning, 3,400 men like him will be handed an envelope and walked out the door, and that one decision will erase this entire company. At its peak, Circuit City was the largest seller of consumer electronics in America, with more than 600 stores, 60,000 employees, and around $12.6 billion in sales a year. A famous business book studied the greatest companies in the country and put Circuit City on the list. On paper, one of the best-run companies in America. Today, it is gone. Every store dark. The brand, that red plug that anchored 1,000 plazas, was sold at auction for $14 million, less than the cost of leasing a single one of its own stores. Ask what happened and you will hear one word: Amazon. Or two: Best Buy. It is not true. Circuit City did not die because the future arrived. It died because the people at the top looked at the one thing that made it special. The man in the red shirt who knew every cable and decided he cost too much. Stay to the end, and you will see how a company that a business Bible called great talked itself into suicide, and why the man who explained it best was the founder's own son. If stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe. It began with a haircut. In 1949, Samuel Wurtzel was visiting Richmond, Virginia, when his barber mentioned that the first television station in the American South was about to go on the air. Wurtzel understood instantly. If there were signals in the air, people would need sets to catch them. He opened a store selling televisions and named it Ward's, after his own family. From that single storefront grew something new in American life: the electronic superstore, a bright showroom with every television, every stereo, every camera under one roof, and a salesman who actually understood the machines. That was the whole identity. The company even turned it into the slogan, where service is state-of-the-art. Not the products, the people. Anyone could stack boxes on a shelf. Circuit City sold you the man who knew which box was right. And it worked. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Circuit City was a Wall Street darling. When the business writer Jim Collins studied the companies that had gone from merely good to truly great, Circuit City made his short list, printed in a book that sat on nearly every executive's desk in America. It looked untouchable. But at the very moment it was being held up as a model of greatness, the people at the top were starting to forget what had made it great. The forgetting came in steps. In 2003, Circuit City cut the commissions that had rewarded its best salespeople, the first quiet signal that expertise was now seen as a cost, not an asset. Then it lost hundreds of millions of dollars on a failed disposable DVD format called DVX. Then, in the summer of 2000, it walked away from selling major appliances, handing a whole category of big-ticket sales to its rivals just before a housing boom. And then, in March 2007, came the decision that ended it. The chief executive was a man named Philip Schoonover, and here is the bitter irony. He had come to Circuit City from Best Buy, the very rival that would soon overtake Circuit City. On a single morning, Circuit City fired 3,400 of its most experienced store employees, about 9% of its store staff. Not for poor performance. The company said so out loud. Their only sin was being paid too well. Anyone earning more than about $18 an hour, a little over $37,000 a year, was walked out and offered the chance to reapply months later at lower pay. Management called it a wage management initiative. On paper, it saved more than $100 million in the first year alone. To be fair, Circuit City was already wounded by 2007. The diff's money gone, Best Buy winning. Schoonover did not start the fire, but critics say what he did was pour gasoline on it. Because the men in the red shirts did not just go home. Many of them walked straight across the parking lot and were hired by Best Buy, and the customers followed the men who knew the answers. The slogan still hung on the wall, "Where service is state of the art." They had just fired the service. What came next was fast. Sales fell. The stores felt hollow, the same shelves, the same boxes, but the person who used to make sense of them was gone, replaced by someone cheaper who could not answer a simple question about which television to buy. Then, in the fall of 2008, the financial crisis hit, and Circuit City had nothing left to absorb the blow. No loyal customers, no expert staff, no cash. On the 10th of November 2008, it filed for bankruptcy. In March 2009, it gave up, and every one of its 567 remaining stores closed for good. 34,000 people lost their jobs. Remember the salesman in the red shirt? The one who spent 20 minutes making sure you bought the right television? By the spring of 2009, there was no counter left for him to stand behind. The red plug went dark across America, and the brand was sold for $14 million, a company that once earned more than $12 billion a year, reduced to a name on a shelf. Circuit City did not lose to Amazon or to the recession. It made a choice, in a boardroom, to stop being the thing that made it worth choosing. For 50 years, it had told America that service was state-of-the-art, that the person behind the counter was the whole point. Then, to save 45 cents an hour, it fired that person and kept the sign. And here is the detail that says everything. There is a famous book called Good to Great by Jim Collins that held Circuit City up as one of America's finest companies. Years after the collapse, the founder's son, Alan Wurtzel, who had grown up inside the company and run it himself, wrote his own book. He called it Good to Great to Gone. Think about those two titles side by side. Jim Collins wrote Good to Great to explain how great companies are built. Alan Wurtzel wrote Good to Great to Gone to explain how they destroy themselves. The same company sits at the center of both. One book is the promise, the other is the autopsy, and the whole difference between them is a single morning and 3,400 people shown the door for the crime of being too good at their jobs. If you ever bought your first television, your first stereo, your first computer from a salesman who actually knew what he was talking about, tell me in the comments what you bought and whether the person who sold it to you knew their stuff. I read every one. And subscribe and stay with me, because this same story, a great American company betraying the very thing that made it great, brought down other giants too. Some of them are already on this channel. The rest are coming.